Wayne Chapin, and welcome to my video replacing your file server with SharePoint Online and OneDrive, and about stop wasting your money on Box and Dropbox when you already have Office 365. So let's get going. So this graphic right here, a couple things going on. We got a file server, we might have Dropbox, we might have Box, but we got some file shares. And what we want to do is we want to take this unstructured data, the file data, and move this over into SharePoint Online document libraries. All right. And so SharePoint Online, this is where we hold our files. OneDrive, this is how we work with our files in File Explorer. All right. And I'm going to show you that. So we're going to use OneDrive, and we're going to sync folders, and then we're going to have this show up nicely inside of File Explorer, which is what I know you really need. So why SharePoint and OneDrive? Well, file servers are a very simplistic way to manage documents on a computer network. They require a backup and disaster recovery system. They're expensive relative to SharePoint Online. And then Box and Dropbox are unnecessary expenses if you have Office 365. So when I think about a file server, I think about, even if we have a Windows Server 2016 acting as our file server, you're probably pretty much using the technology that has been around since Windows NT 4. There really hasn't been a huge amount of advancement that you're probably really taking advantage of anyway. And then on top of that, we have to have a backup system, a disaster recovery system. Those are expensive. And then what I find is people often have Dropbox accounts when they're using Office 365 because they just don't understand how to make SharePoint Online and OneDrive work. And I know what you're thinking. SharePoint's a pain in the butt. SharePoint is complicated. You tried to set up SharePoint in the past, but it was a mess. OneDrive is okay, but people are using Dropbox or Box, and that's what they're comfortable with. And then people are used to using map drives on a file server. So I get all those things. I used to feel that way as well. But why your file server needs to go? It's another server to deal with. It's another backup to manage. There's no easy offline sync capabilities. You need a firewall and a VPN to access your files. What a hassle. You got to host this file management system. There's no document versioning. You have no recycle bin. There's no retention, legal hold, e-discovery capabilities. There's no tracking of who did what when to your files. There's bad search capabilities because you can only search on the names of the files. It's a very, very, very basic IT document sharing system. And you might say, well, hey, Wayne, basic is good enough for us. But the way I look at it, I'm saying with a little bit of training and if somebody to show you, we can get those files moved over, I can make your life a lot better. So SharePoint Online document libraries, that's all we deal with. It's a true document management and sharing system. And the simple structure works like this, right here. Your main company shared folder becomes a SharePoint team site. Your main subfolders become SharePoint document libraries. All right? And that's it. That's as complicated as it gets. So that main big S drive that you have on your network, that becomes a SharePoint team site. And you don't even have to leave the name that way if you want. You can change the name to be main company folder if you like. And then the main subfolders become SharePoint document libraries, the accounting folder, the sales folder, the marketing folder, the operations folder, the IT folder. Just document libraries. And document libraries are a thing inside of SharePoint Online. So SharePoint Online document libraries are all you need to move your file server data. That's it. So you don't need anything else in SharePoint. You don't need to learn dashboards. You don't need to learn workflows. You don't need to learn SharePoint apps. You don't need to learn lists. All right, we just need document libraries. So SharePoint Online document libraries, it's one less server to deal with. There's no backup and disaster recovery system needed. You have file versioning. You have keyword search in the file content as well as the file name, which is a big step up from a file server. Then you have antivirus protection that's protecting these files before they go into the SharePoint document libraries. And also with SharePoint Online document libraries, there's no VPNs. You sync with OneDrive. You have file sharing by links instead of attachments all over the place. If you want, you can still send attachments. You have data retention capabilities. And by that, I mean you can set up data retention inside of SharePoint Online where files that are deleted can still be retained for however long you wish, which is something you don't have. You have to use a backup system in order to do that with a file server. And then you have tracking, legal hold, and e-discovery capabilities inside of SharePoint Online. It's a huge step up when you're moved to SharePoint Online document libraries. So mapping a drive to SharePoint. I know what you want. You want the map drive solution. And technically you can do it, but it's temporary. It's not a permanent solution, and it will break. It might break 1 week down the road. It might break 3 weeks down the road, 2 months down the road. I don't really know. I've just seen they break. So it's not meant to be something, while it can feel like a quick fix and you make everybody feel good, it's not a permanent solution. We don't recommend it. So what does File Explorer look like using SharePoint Online and OneDrive? All right, so I'm going to show you that right now. So let's go ahead. First I want to show you what our folder structure looks like inside of SharePoint Online. If you were just to go to the SharePoint Online web app, which I know you don't want to do, but let's go there first. Let me find it. Here we go. So here's the marketing folder. But let me just take you into the different libraries. Again, we're talking about document libraries, and that's all you gotta be concerned with here. So here's the main company shared folder, which is a Xerillion team site. But I could rename this main company folder if I like. I could name this S drive if I really want, if I'm feeling nostalgic. So here we have the individual subfolders that you would normally used to see. So here's an accounting folder, there's clients, where all the client subfolders are inside. That maybe that's projects for you, maybe that's products for you. Management, marketing, operations, recruiting, sales. So each one of these document libraries has a security group. So the accounting document library, the accounting folder, has an accounting security group, and the appropriate people are in there. And I even have there's a person, our accountant is external to our company, doesn't even have an Office 365 account, and she has permissions in there just through her email address, which is really, really nice. So now I want to show you what the back end looks like. But this basically, we took our file server, moved it up into document libraries inside of SharePoint Online, set the permissions, and we did it on a sync basis. But set the permissions, and then from there, we use OneDrive to synchronize. So here's File Explorer. And so right now I have a synchronization going on. So if you look over here, I've got my personal OneDrive, for family pictures, things like that outside of the business. And then I have my business OneDrive for my personal business documents, and that's all synchronized. But then here I have this little building icon, which is SharePoint. And so OneDrive, when I chose to synchronize some of these folders, OneDrive set this up. So here's that same marketing folder right there. All right, that's it. Now there's a couple things I'll get to a little bit later what these little icons mean, but that's it. Now I can drag and drop, do whatever I need. We have one for sales. There's also one for clients, and there's a few others here I'll show you later. These have to do with Microsoft Teams. That's it. So I want to show you again. We have that S drive, so that it's there. But that's that map drive that you can do to SharePoint. But again, it will just break. There's no knowing that. Sometimes I'll just log in one day and there's a little X there. I got to go and reset, and it's not a simple thing. You gotta use Internet Explorer. You can't use Chrome, Firefox, Edge. You got to use Internet Explorer to log into SharePoint. Reset. It'll reset that link, and then you can access it. And it's nice and snappy and quick. I mean, if I go into back into the marketing folder, it amazes me. It's just like working on a file server, and I get the back end capabilities of SharePoint, but this is not something this is not something we feel comfortable setting up at clients because it just breaks and they have to go to reset it, and then they forget how they had to reset it the first time. So we don't do this, but OneDrive takes care of that altogether. So we just go ahead and choose which folders we want to sync, and that's it. So if I go back into SharePoint, let's say I pick, let me go back into the library, let me go to the marketing folder. It's just as simple as this. Once I have OneDrive loaded on my computer, and I've got this here, right at the top, I will get the capability. I will just click on sync, and then OneDrive will say, oh, this guy wants to sync the marketing folder. Got it. And that's it. That's it. It'll just start synchronizing. And then from there, I can also choose a few things. If I go into marketing, And again, so right here I can choose if I want. So OneDrive has determined that I've been using this company letterhead folder a lot, so it went ahead and synchronized the copy locally. The rest of these here, all that's on my computer are just the names of the files and folders. That's it. And if I want to, I can choose to go in here and I can say always keep this on my device, and then it will keep that synchronized. The full contents of that CRM folder will be synchronized. But I might say, you know what, I don't really access it that much. Keep it, but I just really need to see that it's there. I want to be able to search on it, browse through it if I need to. But if I really want the file and I double click on it, and then go ahead and synchronize it. Otherwise, just don't take up space on my computer. That's really handy. So what I can do is I can say either keep it always on my device, or if it's already synchronized like this one is, I can also right click here and I can say free up space. And once it does that, what it'll do is it'll just keep the name of the folder and the name of the files in there, but it will remove all the synced contents. So let's say there's some huge file inside of company letterhead that's 500 gigabytes. Well, we might not want to have that synchronized on our computer. It's taking up a lot of space, but we just want to know it's there. No problem. We'll go ahead and right click and say free up space, and it will just keep the name there, which is handy if you want to still be able to browse around. And so just to repeat, right now what I told OneDrive to do is just synchronize these particular folders that I need. Sales, marketing, clients. That's it. That's all I need to see there. The rest of them, the other folders, as you saw inside of our document library, there's probably about 20 of them in there. I don't really work in them that much, so don't worry about those. And also on OneDrive, of course, OneDrive itself is where I keep my personal business documents. So right here, this is where I work in OneDrive, and here I have the individual files, and these are things I don't collaborate with others on. It's just stuff only I work on. And OneDrive makes a determination whether it synchronizes them or whether the dark green check is where I said I want them to be synchronized. I told it. The ones where it's a light green check like this is where OneDrive made the determination for me. Hey, I think this guy needs these files. And so a lot of them I said, go. I think what I've done in my OneDrive is I said, I need everything up through the beginning of the year. Beyond that, just keep it in the cloud. Keep it there. I need it there, but I don't need it taking space on my computer because I'm probably not going to be accessing it anyway. So that's why all the little cloud icons are here. And that's just an important distinction when you're working with OneDrive, is that the OneDrive is an application, but it's also a place where you store your personal business documents, whereas SharePoint Online, this is where you collaborate with your team. These would be like department folders, HR, sales, marketing, or client folders, project folders, or product folders. We are collaborating with multiple people in multiple groups, and that's what those are the files and the folders that we put up in SharePoint Online. And then the other thing is, what does working with, when I have my documents up in SharePoint Online, how about when I'm in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint? All right, let's take a look at that. So let me go into PowerPoint. Let me bring that over, because we're in that right now. So if I'm in there, it's pretty much just a matter of going to File, Open, and then here they are. You can see there's OneDrive, there's so here's my business OneDrive, here's my personal OneDrive, and then here's the SharePoint sites. So if I go into here, and I go up, and I go into the team site, you can see here's all those files, and it's real snappy. And this is a live connection. This is not synced, So if I go back in the marketing folder, it'll bring all that stuff up, just like we were looking at it. Now, if I want to go local, I can certainly do OneDrive, my personal business documents. But if I also want to work on the stuff that I'm just synchronizing, which I have right here, then here it is. Here's the synchronized version of the marketing folder. So most of the time when I'm in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I'm just working in here. And this integrates really nicely with SharePoint, OneDrive, and whether you want to connect directly, like you have your file server out in the sky, or whether you want to work locally with your synced files. You have those options either way. So I also want to show you what a user restore on previous versions of files looks like. Usually that is a huge piece of why you would want to move up to SharePoint Online, because if somebody needs to restore a previous version on the file server, they're usually going to have to go to a backup system and call IT to restore it for them. Well, we don't have to. What we do is we train users to show them this nice feature. They don't have to wait for anything. They can just do it. So if I go in here, I'm just using PowerPoint because it's easy, but it works the same in Excel or Word. I can go here and I can go to View Restore Previous Versions, and here they are. That's it. So you can see back here, I mean, we're working on this particular PowerPoint that I'm doing this presentation on, but I started this back on April 12th. Yeah, look at that. So I could open up the previous version. It'll come up read-only, and then I can save it as a different file name or something else, or I can choose to roll back. But the user can do this right on their own. You know, this was usually a call to IT, so it's very, very handy. There's also a way to do it in the SharePoint web app, but this is just a lot handier. I do hope in the future that they put. I do hope in the future that you can go to File Explorer. So let me go into here. If I go into marketing, for example, and I don't know, let me pick here, I don't know, company letterhead. It would be nice if I could right click on this and then go to restore previous versions, but if I do that right now, they don't have that integrated yet. That's soon to come down the road, I'm sure, because that's an obvious thing to be able to do that. But anyway, it amazes me that capability sits right there, and I don't think most people are even aware that that's something they can do. And again, it works the same Excel, Word. You can just go back and grab your old version. And then you have a recycle bin. So if you delete something, the user deletes something, you won't go into File Explorer to retrieve that. You would go into the SharePoint web app, and again, just go on your own, click through it, and then you would go into the recycle bin, and all the files are right there that were deleted. And it's interesting too, because in this recycle bin, who deleted it and when they deleted it, all of that information is tracked. So you can go here and restore it on your own. And then if you need, there's actually a second stage admin only access recycle bin if this gets deleted. But I would say a better way to handle this would be able to set a retention policy inside of Office 365, which you can do, which says, these are the higher up versions of Office 365, but where you can say, even if stuff gets deleted, hold on to it for whatever you want, 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, it's up to you. But I would set that retention policy, and that is the most sophisticated, coolest backup system you could possibly ever have. Think about that. You're an IT manager, and now you're giving your users the capability to go back and restore previous versions of their files themselves, to restore deleted documents on their own, and then you're also setting a retention policy that you'll never have to go back to a backup system to restore files from. And this isn't rocket science to learn, I'm telling you. You'll spend some time learning it, but this is a much more sophisticated, much more capable way of managing your files. So OneDrive Sync, and this is where the magic happens. So with OneDrive, I was showing this a little bit before, but now we have the capability to sync. So this gives us the capability to work inside of File Explorer, which people are most comfortable with, and then choose which folders they want to sync because they don't need everything. And then there's some capabilities we can do beyond that. So managing sync is done inside of File Explorer. So you can sync the entire SharePoint folder, which I did here. So going back to this, if I go into, let me go back to libraries, and I go to marketing, and then here, if I want to synchronize this to OneDrive so it's available in File Explorer, I just hit sync, and then OneDrive takes care of it. And so once I do that, now I have the marketing folder synchronized on my computer here. Then I have a few more options. I can say I want to synchronize everything so it's always available on my computer. So I can say this entire folder, always keep it on my device all the time. Or I can say, you know what, let's free up some space, and I only want to see the names of the files and folders. So show it to me. I want to be able to browse. I want to see it's there, but I don't want it taking up space on my computer. because I really only care about, let's say, I really only care about these folders. These are the ones I want available offline when I'm traveling or something like that, out of the marketing folder. I could choose to say, always keep these 3 folders available to me. The rest of this is just available for my visibility. But we can take it a step further. You can also hide files you don't care about. So if we go back to this marketing folder, well, you can see there's lots and lots of subfolders in here. Well, you might say, I don't even, if I'm working locally in File Explorer, I don't even really need to see all these other ones. I really just care about these 3 folders right here. Well, what you can do is you can go into OneDrive. Now I brought over the OneDrive app, and I'm inside the settings, and I'm in this marketing folder, and I can choose which folders I want to make visible. So right now it's make all files and folders visible, but I can unselect that and say, you know what, I only care about these 3. And when I'm working in File Explorer, I'm working online, I really only need to see these 3. Go ahead and keep the rest of these up in SharePoint, up in the cloud. Maybe others can use them, stuff like that, but I really am just working on these 3, because if I hide the rest of them, I don't have to sit there and look through all this other stuff. I just go right to the folders that I'm working on. So the way I see that, if you're somebody who's a product manager or a project manager, and you're like, yeah, our company, the projects folder has 200 subfolders inside of it. I'm only working on 1 project. Well, I want to hide the rest of them, and I just want to synchronize that 1 folder. That's it. That is really nice. I really like that feature a lot. And then OneDrive links. So when I send proposals to people, for example, and in most documents, I don't send attachments, full attachments, and then I send, again, a proposal is a really great example. I put a proposal together, I send it, then we have some discussions, and I got to modify it. We have some discussions, and I got to modify it. This goes back and forth, and you're trying to keep track of versions and stuff like that. Inside of SharePoint, there's just one version of the document at the top of the stack. The rest of them are version history that you can roll back to if you like, but there's just one version of that document. So if you use a link and then you give people a link to access the file directly on your OneDrive or directly on SharePoint, and then you set an expiration on it, well, that's how I work. And it's great. You have full control over that document. And you can do the links inside of the SharePoint web app, the OneDrive web app, inside of File Explorer, or there's a really nice way to do it inside of the Office apps. So let me show you that. All right, so let's go into company letterhead. I'm just going to take that. Let's just say that's the file that I wanted to send. Well, what I can do is I can right-click on that, and again, I'm inside File Explorer, and I can click Share. And once I do that, I can say, well, this link I'm going to set up is available to anyone, and I can either turn on editing or turn off editing, and I'm going to set an expiration from a month from now for June 5th. So I'm going to apply. So I can type an email and put myself in here, wayne.chapin@Xerillion, and it'll put a nice, this is a test. So it'll send a nice message. I can send it right from here, and the formatting looks really, really nice when you send that, and it's pretty sharp the way the customer sees it. Another option is you can just get the link yourself. So I can do this, and then I'm going to go ahead and create an email, and I'll type this, Wayne Chapin test, and here is that document. All right, so it'll send it. It's just a link right there. If you want to fancy it up, you can. I can go ahead and edit hyperlink, and I can just change the display test document. And there it is, and I think it looks pretty slick. Another option is you can go into, let me pull up that PowerPoint again. So if I wanted to send this to somebody, I can click on Share from here. And I can create this link. And then we'll go back to email. And let me redo that one again. I'll show you this one format's nice. So when you set it inside of Office apps, it just does a really nice job. It just takes the name, puts it in there for you, as opposed to that long SharePoint URL that you get when you do a File Explorer. So I tend to use this one a lot more. So if I'm putting usually it's most of the time I'm in Excel or Word, putting proposals together and I'll just go ahead and hit that share, grab the link, and then put my email together, and then just paste it right here, and it just looks really, really sharp. But the point is, the customer clicks on that. If they need to come back to it, or I need to make a change, I don't send them another version of that attachment. What happens is I could say, I made the change we discussed. Go ahead and you work on that same link. It's really nice. They're called modern attachments in Microsoft world, and it is impressive when people say it. Okay, OneDrive and Teams files. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about this, but in our company we use Teams heavily. So I have another video, you can watch it in our channel here. Took me a long time to put together to explain Teams, but it's a modern chat-based workspace, and with the idea being you're chatting in emails and it's just very inefficient. So in Teams, it drives your work efficiency, your team collaboration efficiency to another level. It's a little bit of a mind shift. There's a little bit of training you got to do, but once you have it ingrained in your company, and it probably would take me 3 or 4 weeks, it's incredible. It's incredible how you can work. And I spend probably 90% of my time working in Teams, and probably 10% of my time working in Outlook at this point. So Teams is really taking over for Outlook, and it's a much better platform to work with as a company. But anyway, inside of Teams, you have a files area. So it's basically a little SharePoint document library container. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm in Teams right now. So in marketing, here we have our Teams conversation channel, and then we have for this video, we're going to talk about the files tab. So in our company, our transition for file management went from having a traditional file server to moving into box.com, then into SharePoint document libraries, and now we keep all of our new files as of maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. They're all in the Teams, and so here anything related to marketing goes into the Teams folder at this point. So that's great, and the same capabilities for synchronizing still exist here too. So all I wanted to show you is that if you're working in Teams or interested in working in Teams, you can still synchronize these folders. So if I go into File Explorer, I have another one called Marketing, and it says General. Well, this is the general channel inside of the marketing team, and so I can synchronize it just like everything else. There it is right there. These are the same files that are in Teams. So you can do that, and it is handy. Again, I'm a big proponent of Teams. This is where all of our conversations and our files are at, but it is nice to be able to go into File Explorer and drag and drop there as well. And you still have all the capabilities that you get for the back end when you use SharePoint document libraries. And then search capabilities, when you have your file data inside of SharePoint, the search capabilities are so much better than they are inside of a file server. So you can search inside a File Explorer like you're used to doing. I'm sure pretty much most people know how to do that. You can also search easily in SharePoint or the OneDrive web apps. So in this case, when I do that, when my documents go into SharePoint and OneDrive, what happens is the system indexes both the name of the document and all of the contents inside the documents. So if I were looking for a client, and I'm looking for client A, I could search inside of my entire document library structure, and it'll find every time the word client A shows up in the name and also anywhere inside the document, which is far superior than having a file server, which you're just to be able to search on names of files. So let me go in there. So here I am in the marketing folder, and if I wanted to put in something here, let's, probably I'm guessing Office 365, and so it pulled up all these items real quick. It says, well, I think these might be it, and I want to see, stuff that Wayne Chapin did. Let's see what we got there. I'm going to take it a little further. I want to see the stuff from this, let's see, 2017. and it's going to pull those items up there. And you can go on and on and on with that search. But what you can see is it found 2017, not just the name of the document, but 2017 and Office 365 inside the contents of the document as well. Very, very handy. And so from there, if I need to click search, it'll start pulling up all these documents for me right away. So that is a vastly superior search experience compared to having a file server. Okay, now I want to show you OneDrive Mobile. So I'm going to do a demo of that. So we talked about where all of the files are in SharePoint and how we use OneDrive and File Explorer and the web apps and stuff like that, and how it is a much more sophisticated system than working with a file server. So here, now I'm going to show you how things look like on the OneDrive app. So let me bring this over. I've got a mirror going on with my Samsung Galaxy Note 8. So I brought up OneDrive, and here we go. I mean, here's my files that I work with in my personal business documents in OneDrive. But if I need to go to the individual sites, there they are. I can click on that, and this is the stuff I was showing you earlier. Here's the individual document libraries, and it is very handy to be able to have access to that on the go. Absolutely, I've been in situations where I had information, or I'm running to get to a client where we're going over maybe the third meeting over a proposal, and I realized, oh shoot, I didn't put in time to actually get over to go over the proposal. So I just gave myself enough time to rush, to that meeting. Absolutely, I've taken this in the car, and I'm like, okay, I got a few minutes, so I go through and I find it, go to the proposal, get myself together, and then head in. Very, very helpful. And I have, it's nice having a big mobile device to be able to use these things on, which I do. But I use these on my iPhone when I used to have that as well. And so I want to say, I think they nailed it. These changes with OneDrive are relatively new, maybe about 4 or 5 months old now. And so it was the last piece we needed to be able to get our clients access into File Explorer, which is what they really want. And I like it too. There was a period where I'm like, well, look, you got to work in the web browser to work with your SharePoint Online document libraries, but it is a nicer experience to work inside of File Explorer. But also, it's a really nice experience to just work inside Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the Office apps. Really, really nice and seamless too. And then you can have this synchronized or not synchronized, or just synchronize the names of the files. You can hide subfolders you don't really care about seeing to reduce noise and increase your focus. It is a really powerful, sophisticated tool. And when we used to have Box, I didn't see these same sort of features in Box at the time. So, but that being said, most of our clients have Office 365, and a lot of you have Exchange Online right now. And so now the question is, can you get those files moved over up into SharePoint Online? Either, and you can do it, or you can work with a company to do it. You can call us if you need help and guidance and stuff like that. But the point is, what you want to do is you get them off that file server, because you don't want to be that company that has all this other stuff in the cloud, but the last thing you got this domain controller you can't figure out what to do with, and then you've got this file server, which is what I see again and again and again. So you don't need the file server, and you migrate your file server folders. So department folders each get their own document library, and then your clients, projects, products, those folders get their own document libraries as well. And successfully integrating SharePoint and OneDrive. And so the first question is, do you feel comfortable to safely migrate your massive file server? So there's a lot of weight with those files that are on your file server, and that's probably one of the things that's holding you back. It's one of the things that's nicer when we work with smaller clients, that they don't have this huge amount of legacy data that's just weighing down this file server. They can't get this stuff off, or they can't figure out, what should I move, what can I move. That's tough. There's strategies around that. Okay, I won't go into that video here, but there's strategies around that. And we can talk to you about that. We've done all kinds of migrations like this, and one could be as simple as we tell everybody, we get everything set up in SharePoint Online. We set up the document libraries, so the accounting group has their accounting folder, the sales group has their sales folder, And then we tell them, look, either we're going to synchronize, or maybe the department heads are responsible to getting their data moved over, but as of a certain date, no new data can go on the old file server. It can only go up in SharePoint Online. And then as of another date down the road, we're shutting down that file server. So you got to get that data moved over. And sometimes people say, well, there's a bunch of legacy data in there. I probably don't need it because there's a lot of stuff that pertains to work we did 5, 10, 15 years ago. We can just work on the projects we're working on right now, move those up into SharePoint, get everybody synchronized, get them comfortable with File Explorer, and move on. But what I would say is get some basic admin training and get help with the setup and the migration. And users can get some basic end user training. So, with OneDrive, the apps, so they know the difference between the desktop, the mobile, and the web app, and how to use them and when they would use them. And then SharePoint Online, so understand document versioning, how to check in and check out a document. That's very important. How to use the recycle bin, and how to use external link sharing. So if you just knew these things inside of SharePoint Online, you'd be really ahead of the game. And if your users knew how to do these items here and how to use the different ways to access the files, that's really all you need. And it isn't a crazy amount of training. It isn't even a lot of training. It's some basic stuff. And so even when we migrate companies over, we set up a synchronization, so it's moving files over as new files come in, and just keeping your SharePoint Online synchronized with your local file server. And then we pick a cutover date. Before we pick the cutover date, what we do then is we set up a training session with the team. And depending on how big your organization is, we might have multiple training sessions on different dates, so we can get everybody in there so we can show them, okay, this is what's going to happen, and this is how you're going to access your files. And relax, we're going to get a lot more functionality and a lot more capability out of this, but we also need you to do some training, just some micro training, some quick video training, videos that are 30 seconds to 3 minutes long, and move you through a sequence of how-tos so you know how to use these systems. And then you guys are off to the races. And then, for IT people, you're in a much better place as well. And then when we integrate a company, if we're moving a file server, we have a decision to make. Do we go into SharePoint Online, or do we use team files? I suggest SharePoint Online first, get comfortable with that, and then move into Teams for your files. Again, big proponent of Teams. It is fantastic, but everybody's got to be on board. And the more senior people in the company, those are usually the ones that it's going to feel very odd to them in the beginning. But that's something where, if you want, you can talk to a Microsoft partner, or talk to us, and we can show you what this looks like and how this looks like. Because if you can make that transition just directly into Teams, that's better for the company overall as far as its productivity and efficiency. And if you're curious about how Teams looks like, there's another video on my channel here about that. And the ownership and executive leadership has to be on board. And SharePoint Online will cut your costs, raise security, increase capability. Your data is 1,000 times more secure up in SharePoint Online than it is on that file server with its perimeter-based security, when half the company is floating around outside of the office where the firewall is not doing anything for us. And then we got to host this data at your office. So if we have all of these controls for security, which you get inside of SharePoint Online, again, things I didn't go over here, where you can integrate the security permissions directly inside the document or directly inside the email, so that security stays with that email or document no matter where it goes in the world. And the document's tracked. And then we have e-discovery capabilities. We have document preservation and retention capabilities. There's 1,000 more things we can do that we get for security, compliance, and data access control inside of SharePoint Online. And it'll increase the company's capability. So people will resist and fall into old habits over and over and over, but we got to shut down those file shares. That's what it boils down to. So, what I've seen is when people make this change and we handle it in the approach that I was mentioning, we don't get a lot of resistance. And there's a little bit of uncomfortableness in the beginning as people get used to it. But then if you couple that with the training, then you're in a really good position to get your team moving in a more modern direction with their documents. And you will need training and proper orientation to get people comfortable. We would never just cut somebody over and say, here you go, it's in File Explorer, have fun. And you could start with a department or project, get comfortable, and add more people or groups. So they could just start with IT. That would be a good place to start. or that might start with a project or a product that you're working on. But you really should bring in an outside consultant if you are not a SharePoint document library expert yourself. And then how to get SharePoint and OneDrive. It comes with all versions of Office 365 through Essentials all the way through Microsoft Enterprise E5, which is the top version. That's the version we use. And it comes with Xerillion's Confident Cloud Advantage. And that's our managed IT solution for email, files, phones, advanced security, unlimited help desk, IT strategy, and it's managed by Xerillion and powered by the Microsoft Cloud. So thanks for watching. I am very excited and passionate about SharePoint Online and OneDrive. As a guy who has built file servers in the past, I have used Dropbox, Box, and then I had my own journey moving up into SharePoint and avoiding it for a long time. I can tell you, life is a lot better. And I will also tell you, if you're an IT person, especially the IT people out there, who sometimes feel that their value is based on having hunks of hardware on site. That's file server. There's a reason for my existence there. I understand that. There was a time I felt that too. But if you make that transition into the modern enterprise cloud world and you know how to work with these things, your value in the marketplace is much higher and your quality of life is much better. Servers bring pain. So if they're running fine, servers are running fine until they're not running fine. So Microsoft and their multi-billion-dollar data centers can do a much better job managing that hardware than you or I can. So let's leave that to them. But what they won't do is they won't manage the configuration of the service for your customer or for your company that you're doing admin for. That's up to us. The data access controls are up to us. Managing the services and the security, that's up to us. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can email us at support@xerillion.com or go to our website at xerillion.com, fill out a form. There's plenty of things about Office 365, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Azure, because it's all we do. And it is our passion. So I'm Wayne Chapin, President of Xerillion. Thanks.